The first question is, I wrote my research lately, submitted and waiting for approval. I use AI, but in a very limited way. To what limit we can use it in terms of writing out our data? In the discussion session, for example, can we rely on AI for data analysis? You can rely on AI, but you need to always check for accuracy. My suggestion is the following: you write the manuscript entirely, and then you use AI to improve your writing, to really check whether the data have been analyzed in a proper way, or if you missed something, the same way that you can use AI to expand your discussions in a way that might be more the logic of the data analysis and the information and the interpretation is more achievable for a reader to understand. This is what I always suggest to start using AI um, for, because indeed there is sometimes the mistake of using AI too much to write the paper and then not being able not to use AI to write something. This is what we need to avoid, to have a proper balance. So this is the suggestion I would give it to you. Kindly suggest the AI. Good afternoon to you too, first of all. Kindly suggest the AI tools for some of these improvements you have mentioned. The AI tools that I mostly suggest are indeed those that I presented: the Paperpal, the art discovery, the Minder graph, because with those tools, you have indeed all what you need to review the literature, to create a comparative analysis, to really provide the illustrations that you might want to insert as a scheme or as a graphical abstract in your presentation of an article or of a poster, etc. Those are really provided by academics and for academics. So those are the tools I indeed suggest, especially for young researchers, to start using those kind of instruments, and like these start entering into this AI world that we are indeed discovering. There is also a reason. Anytime that you upload informations into a platform that is not properly licensed or is not properly designed to protect your data, you might then see your project somewhere, and you don't want that. You want to keep owning your project. So just take in mind also that. How much similarity is acceptable by the journals? So it depends according to the journals, but it's very low. It's below than 20%, much below. There are journals that accept 10%. And those is more referred to the material and method session, right? Because it's very unlikely that we provide an introduction or a discussion that is indeed the same as we saw somewhere else, because those are our data. Those is our framework of a research paper. So indeed, you need as well here to be careful, because the similarity is one of the first things that the journal check. When you submit a manuscript, The manuscript goes through the different AI platforms that the journal has to look for plagiarism, that's it, the similarity, but also to look whether you comply with the journal's guidelines in terms of providing ethical approval or provide disclosing the important information that sustain your paper, and then also to check whether there was a figure manipulation. If by any chance you have those kind of issue, you incurred in those kind of practices, then the paper does not go to the editor, comes back to you to fix those things before reaching the editors that is handling your paper. And this is the reason for which you really need to pay attention to those items. Kindly suggest the AI tools that are free to use. Well, that you can easily spot also on a Google search. But again, I'm recommending something that is very, you can use, of course, AI tools that are free. Again, I'm just recommending you not to upload sensitive information because indeed we make these tests, right? So this is also the reason for which licensed platform are indeed being developed to preserve the safety of the data. So try to use the many that you can find in the online from the the usual platform that everybody sometimes tested at least the ones that you can find like the ChatGPT, etc. But remember, so your information are out. You don't want that. What you want are reliable AI tools, because if you submit your manuscript, it's just one discovery that is being published. So if others pick the same text, even to write something like in a review or to mention that as a discovery, then you lose the paper. So please really consider also that terms in favor of the protection of your data. Do we need to disclose the use of Paperpal in the acknowledgement while submitting the manuscript? Yes. So you needed to check the guidelines for the specific session of using AI tools. With journals, it doesn't. So this is something that I wanted to make very clearly. So there are people that are thinking, I cannot make others to see that I'm using AI tools. Otherwise, it seems I don't know how to, right? It is not the case. So everything can be used, but everything can be acknowledged and needs to be acknowledged. So you can indeed acknowledge it in the material and method session if the journal suggests so, or in the acknowledgement by saying simply that you made use of this application for the reviewing of the paper, for instance. And this is something that does not prevent your paper from being published, that you don't cause a bad impression to the authors, to the editor, or to the reviewers. And it's like declaring a conflict of interest, right? If people has conflict of interest and declare it, this does not mean that the paper is not published, or does not mean that the editor is looking at that disclosure in a very suspicious manner. No, it's simply acknowledging, and then yeah, you can have your paper published anywhere you want. um, Suppose we review some literature and we want to create a reference with the help of the AI tools. Yes, you can. So indeed, those applications that I um, explain to you are doing so as well, because you really need to create references with AI tools if you have all the papers that you read collected and uploaded in that platform. Then it will be easy for you to do so, right? So is indeed allowing you to create out of the many papers that you check or compared or read or use the platform to do so, and then creating all the reference list through that is fairly easy, and is included in what the tool and the application can do. So you can do that again, acknowledging that you use that even if for references. So you can if you feel more comfortable, you might want to disclose the contribution that you use the AI tool for. So you can say for help in reviewing the paper, help in interpreting the results, or help in creating a reference list, for example. Good afternoon to you too. Uh, in my question, I'm using Killbot, Grammarly, and Turnitin. Do I still need the Paperpal, as you mentioned, is better than Grammarly, according to what are your needs, right? So in this presentation, it was very useful for me to illustrate you the differences between one software and the other, one application and the other, because indeed you can compare according to what you need. Sometimes we might need a very simple thing, and you might keep going with your tools, but imagine that at some point you would like indeed to, for instance, look at the many different applications that the tools I presented are providing, and you can explore them then in this application that will be given to you. So like this you can have a better and full comprehension. Imagine that you need to expand your research and check for much more article, because you are limited, right, to specific pools, or you might want even to better compare the article because you are not very well satisfied, or because you feel that the way of writing is not the proper one. So it depends on everything, as we say, what you need to do, which is your level, which is your expectation and your requirement. But by comparing in the table that I give you, you might indeed shortlist what you need. More question. Does the use of AI, in case you used to improvise the sentence structure of the manuscript, decrease the weightage or credibility of the paper? Not at all. So this is indeed the best use of AI you can do, because you can indeed allowing the tool to teach you how to then write. You can learn a lot from that. And indeed, if there is something that AI does it, and in a very well manner, is that so to provide you with a more elaborated sentence that allows you to disclose better the message that you want to provide, and that does not diminish either the credibility or the impact or the chance to have the paper accepted. Is the content, and I really want to stress that is not the translation that you might want to need to rely on for writing the paper, is not the app that you use, is not the search of the literature, is the content of your manuscript what makes an editor and the reviewer accept it or not. Okay. Um, my question is which tool, good afternoon to you too. My question is which tool is the best out of all? So every tool has a specific features that renders it unique. So it's difficult to find the tool that is the best of all because tools are specialized in different types of things that are according to the need and according to the request and the demand of the users. So usually there is not just one tool to do so. You might need to, for instance, do the graphs, right, and prepare the infographics and prepare the graphical abstract. That are specific tools that you use for that. But then you might want to, check for the grammatics errors that your manuscript might contain. There are specific tools for that too. So having a very comprehensive tool in getting it all together is very difficult, but because indeed you might lose the specificity. But indeed those the tools that I provided you might allows you to navigate and see what you need. This is the reason for which most of the time I'm saying don't substitute AI tools with the creativity of the human brain, with the innovation of the human brain, because indeed you need that to really distinguish what then you need as next step, or which is the tool that you might purchase, for instance, versus what are the skills that you might simply develop and apply. So that is a very borderline with sometimes the new technologies that are out in the market, because are tools, and I cannot stress it more than that. Use it as such. Okay.